Good evening and welcome. Tonight, political parties in final push for more votes as the clock ticks towards the commencement of the general elections. Candidates continue to pledge their readiness to take the nation to greater heights. Over 1,200 pre-election cases at various levels of court ahead of the 2023 general elections. INEC reveals pledges adequate security for all ad hoc staff during the polls. National Universities Commission directs closure of universities from February 22nd to March 14th, 2023 to enable students exercise their franchise.
On business news tonight, instant electronic payments hit 38 trillion naira in January amid short Naira supply, according to data from Nigeria Interbank Settlement System.
On sports news tonight, Nigerian sprinter Divine Oduduru faces a 6-year ban after he was provisionally suspended for 2 potential anti-doping rule violations by the Athletics Integrity Unit.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, former President Olusegun Obasanjo backs the creation of state police in the country, recommends establishment of safeguards to discourage abuse by governors. And in international news from London, hopes for finding survivors fading as death toll from the Turkey-Syria earthquakes passes 19,000.
We're neck deep in political season, and political parties will continue to ramp up their campaigns in the run-up to the start of the general elections, with the candidates making final pitches for their agenda. We'll begin in the nation's capital today, where the Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi recited his message of a new Nigeria he says will be birthed if Nigerians elect him later this month. Addressing a crowd of supporters at the Old Parade Ground, Mr. Obi says a dark cloud over Nigeria will be lifted and the country will get working under his administration. Our political correspondent, Dele Omoyeni, has more.
The Labour Party presidential candidate, his wife, the vice presidential candidate and his wife, the FCT senatorial and House of Reps candidates, and members of the national executive of the party are at the Old Parade Ground to seek the votes of residents of the nation's capital. Mr. Obi tells the people that he and his running mate have all it takes to turn around the country.
We have a high level of youth unemployment. We will employ our youths. We will make them productive. We have vast land in the north where our youths will be engaged and they will be productive. Nigeria will feed itself. Nigeria will be a great nation again. We don't want the excuses again. That is what Daddy and I are offering you. Join us, support us, to fight to build a new Nigeria.
The vice presidential candidate and the national chairman of the party urged Nigerians not to fall for the antics of the other parties.
Anybody who stands in front of you to tell you that Nigerian security has improved, he does not mean well for Nigeria. The people who are going around Nigeria now to say that they have improved your economy, while you pass long queues at the ATMs and in the filling stations, while you and your loved ones are scared at night in your houses, while you cannot travel in your own country, those people do not mean well for you.
Casting your votes, remain there till it is counted. You know, these people we are fighting, they are dubious. You can see their desperation. They are very, very desperate. And because of that desperation, we must be ready to checkmate them. And the only way we can checkmate them is for us to vote, make sure it is counted, and defend your vote.
The Federal Capital Territory has long been a stronghold of the People's Democratic Party, and the Labour Party is hoping to make inroads into the seat of power. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party says the ruling All Progressives Congress is responsible for the poor implementation of the Naira swap and cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The party stated this at its presidential campaign rally held in Kano State, where its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar promised to revive commercial activities and restore peace and security in the state if elected. Our political correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
16 days to the 2023 presidential election, the campaign train of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is in Kano State to woo the electorate. At the Sani Abacha Stadium venue of the rally, PDP supporters defied the scorching sun to show support for the party's presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar. He reassures the people of his promises to revive the economy and restore security.
Do you want the return of peace in Kano? Do you want the return of agricultural prosperity in Kano? Do you want the return of your industries in Kano? Now, do you want the borders open? It is only PDP administration that can implement these 4 key policy issues. Therefore, I want to appeal to you to vote PDP from top to bottom, from bottom up.
Following recent developments in the country, party leaders take a swipe at the ruling All Progressives Congress for the current difficulties faced by Nigerians.
Under PDP, we were doing very well. We were becoming the richest economy in Africa. Today, after 8 years of suffering Nigerians and they have nothing to offer, they have come with a policy of changing currency on the last minute. Nobody asked them to change currency. They are planning to bring in monies, both old and new currency. In fact, they are even planning to bring fake currency to deceive you on election day. We will not accept any attempt by anybody to manipulate the electoral process.
The better days of Kano will be back under Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Kano used to be the place wherever, anywhere in the world, they are looking for better tannery, they will come to Kano. All the tannery companies, all the big factories that were here, they've all closed down. But today we have good news for you.
As the PDP continues to engage the electorate across the country, it hopes for victory in the election on February 25. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Now to Sokoto State, where the president again stated his support for the presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress. Senator Bola Tinubu, he urged residents of the state to vote for Tinubu as his candidate. Addressing APC supporters during a rally, the president says Senator Tinubu is the party's candidate who must be supported by all in order for the legacies of his administration to be sustained. He also expressed appreciation to the people of Sokoto for their show of love and hospitality. The APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu said with the party's brooms, it will sweep away Nigeria's challenges.
We work hard. We will eliminate corruption. We will drive away madness called kidnapping. We will do hard work. Clean Nigeria of rubbish.
Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress is sensitizing supporters on how to cast their votes during the general elections. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, who's also Director of Election Planning and Monitoring of the APC Presidential Campaign Council today launched 10,000 foot soldiers in Lagos State for the party's candidates. Mr. Fashola says the APC has delivered infrastructure projects at the state and federal level and appeals to the people to vote for the party in order to experience more dividends of democracy. Center, Ikeja, Lagos, venue of the formal launch of Ekoni Budget 10,000 foot soldiers, is filled to capacity with the All Progressives Congress support party leaders in the state and federal levels here to canvass for the party's presidential candidate, Senator Bola Tinubu, and the re-election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu.
Nigeria.
The event, put together by the former governor of Lagos State, is all about voter education for APC party faithful.
You must look at it, they give you a ballot paper, you don't look at the back to see that it's signed, stamped by the PO, presiding officer, rejected vote, low up.
The message is not necessarily for us here, it's the evangelism. How do we tell our children who are on social media? I know they can be strong-headed, but who must explain to them so that they understand the situation of our country and what we need to do to make it better.
Governor Sanwo-Olu explains the party's logo and how to cast the vote.
Asiwaju's name is not on the ballot paper. Shetima's name is not on the ballot paper. It is APC logo that they will see on the ballot paper, and that's what we need to sell to them now. That's what we need to remind them and show them how to ensure that they thumbprint and their votes do not get void.
Former governor of the state, who is now Director, Election Planning and Monitoring of the Presidential Campaign Council for the APC, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, states why they should vote for the party.
Let them know that all the roads that link Lagos to other states of the Federation were constructed by APC government. Work is also ongoing on the road to Abeokuta. Let them know that we started work on that road and they have to let us finish it.
We, the coalition of political parties in Lagos State, CUPIS, endorse Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu for president.
The coalition of political parties in Lagos State also endorsed Bola Tinubu and Governor Sanwo-Olu as their preferred candidates. To enable students to participate in the 2023 general elections, the National Universities Commission has ordered the closure of universities across the country from February 22nd to March the 14th. In a letter between February 22nd and March 14th, a letter addressed to vice chancellors and directors of inter-university centers, the NUC notes the directive is based on one from the Minister of Education, Mr. Adamu. According to the Commission, the decision is also in view of concerns expressed for the security of staff, students, and property of the respective institutions. In part two, after the break, the President approves the establishment of a Presidential Transition Council, signs the executive order for the facilitation and management of presidential transitions. That will be in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us to watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, here's a reminder of our top stories. Political parties in final push for more votes as the clock ticks towards the commencement of the general elections. Candidates continue to pledge their readiness to take the nation to greater heights. Over 1,200 pre-election cases at various levels of court ahead of the 2023 general elections. INEC reveals pledges adequate security for all ad hoc staff during the polls. National Universities Commission directs closure of universities from February 22nd to March 14, 2023 to enable students exercise their franchise. Hopes for finding survivors fading as death toll from the Turkey-Syria earthquake passes 19,000. Welcome back. We continue with preparations for the general elections coming up later this month. In Niger State, political party leaders and contestants have signed a peace accord towards ensuring free, fair and credible 2023 general elections. During the ceremony in Minna, the state capital, the Commissioner of Police, Ogundele Ayodeji, noted that although the police and other security agencies are usually tasked with the role of ensuring peaceful polls, it could not be achieved without collaboration and synergy of other relevant political stakeholders.
The move to ensure a peaceful electioneering process is still ongoing in Niger State, as all political parties commit to sign a peace accord at the police officers' mess in Minna, the state capital. The political parties and contestants who were present are NRM, PDP, SDP, NNPP, Accord, ADC, ADP, LP, AA, ZLP, and only the APC ruling party in the state was absent, as the agreement is signed under the supervision of the Police Command's legal officer, SP Jude Akeze.
Our understanding, commitment, and desire for a peaceful election is a function of our total resolve for a peaceful atmosphere before, during, and after the forthcoming 2023 general election.
Other relevant stakeholders also appealed to all parties to play by the rules of engagement by refraining from provocative speeches and circulating wrong information through social media or face the repercussions.
Not by signing alone, by trying to implement and be abide, as the Commissioner of Police said, that you should not only abide by the law is there, is very clear, your constitution, your party constitution, because I believe every party's constitution doesn't allow violence. So please, abide by the law.
We'll monitor campaigns, we'll monitor gatherings of political parties. If we find out that there are drugs that are being distributed, we will interrupt it. And just as my friend said from correctional centers, if we get you, sorry, you will not witness the election till after elections.
The IPAC chairman, Bello May Kujeri, appreciated the police for organizing the Peace Accord program and equally commended INEC for introduction of BVAS to reduce manipulation during the election.
With the introduction of BVAS, we think this is a step forward from the INEC umpire, because this BVAS has been tested and it is workable because it gives free, credible election in some of our states. We have to commend the electoral umpire for introducing this electoral BVAS machine to make sure our election is free from manipulation.
On our own part, we will ensure that we create and provide level environment. Play a very level environment, that's level environment for everybody to play. And by the grace of God, we will work assiduously to ensure that we will be at the polling unit as and when due.
The peace accord was witnessed by political parties, contestants, INEC, heads of security agencies, Human Rights Commission, and religious bodies.
There are over 1,200 pre-election cases at various levels of court ahead of the 2023 general elections. A chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, gave this figure when he met with the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Yakubu Mekiao, at the commission's headquarters in Abuja. Professor Yakubu also met with vice-chancellors of federal universities, where he gave the assurance of total security for the staff and everyone who comes out to vote on election day.
The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is meeting with vice-chancellors of federal universities. The aim of the meeting is to discuss the involvement of the vice-chancellors in the 2023 general election, which is about 2 weeks away. INEC is engaging with the vice-chancellors as state collation officers for the presidential election and returning officers for the governorship elections. The academicians, however, have their concerns. Chief among them is security.
My concern was security, so I won't belabor that point to know how we're going to be protected. Thank you, and all our members.
INEC is, however, assuring them that all those involved in the exercise are safe.
We are working on a very comprehensive election security plan that covers not just the vice-chancellors in their capacities as returning officers and state collation officers for the presidential election, but all categories of election duty staff.
He also urged them to conduct proper background checks on those who will work with the electoral body, avoiding those with political affiliations. Back at the headquarters of the Commission, the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Yakubu Mekiel, is visiting to emphasize that the association is not partisan and would not allow anything to taint the electoral process. However, the INEC chairman is concerned about the high number of pre-election litigations, and in most cases, it has nothing to do with the Commission.
We are here to say to you that the Nigerian Bar Association is solidly behind INEC, solidly behind your administration, and we would not allow anything that would taint this process as far as NBA is concerned.
Litigation alone, as at Monday this week, the 6th of February, INEC has been joined in 1,241 cases, making us one of the most litigated against agencies in the country. These cases have nothing to do with elections conducted by INEC. They are primary elections conducted by political parties. But each time they go to court, they join the commission, and we have to engage either our own in-house lawyers or we have to farm the cases out to external legal firms to represent the commission.
INEC has promised to ensure safe and credible elections, and these meetings are part of efforts to tie every loose end ahead of the exercise.
Persons living with disabilities are asking for guaranteed security and comfortable voting environment during the presidential and state elections. They say improvements in these areas will encourage more of them to participate actively in subsequent elections. It cited these positions in studies conducted nationwide and findings made public in Lagos. Our correspondent Timothy Crown Adirigbe reports.
The clock continues to tick, leading to the general elections, which begins on Saturday, February the 25th, 2023. And just like every other Nigerian, persons living with disabilities are also standing up to be counted. These Nigerians will represent about 3.32% of the total population, however, raising concern over some of the challenges they face ahead of the polls, including difficulty in getting their permanent voter cards. Some still find their way around some of these challenges.
And I look forward to personally participating in the election process myself. I have transferred my voters polling unit from where it could be difficult for me to go. So I've transferred it very close to where I live, so that I have no excuse. I want to go and vote, and I want to see how INEC is ready to accept me as a voter and as a person on a wheelchair.
This gathering in Lagos is to relay the feeling of some people living with disability from across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The research, among other things, sought to evaluate INEC provisions and preparations for their participation in the 2023 general elections under a new electoral act.
The assessment include 1, a very high level of enthusiasm on the part of persons with disabilities to vote. And quite a number of them, a very good number of them, have done the needful. 1, by registering to vote.
In spite of the perceived enthusiasm and readiness of these special people to vote, there's a call for improved environment at polling units.
From what we have gathered from respondents so far, we've seen an improved participation from 2011 to 2015 and 2019. We are also seeing this improvement to come up this month. However, in all these improvement, looking at the total population of people with disability that are eligible to participate in the electoral process, it's still weak.
They are also calling for more enlightenment programs for persons with disabilities about their right to not just vote, but be supported to get elected positions. Timothy Crown, Adirigbe, Channels Television News.
And ahead of his handing over power to the incoming administration on May 29, 2023, the president has approved the establishment of a Presidential Transition Council to manage the transition program. President Muhammadu Buhari also signed Executive Order number 14 of 2023 on the facilitation and management of presidential transitions, which institutionalizes a legal framework that would enable seamless transition of power from one presidential administration to another. This was disclosed in a statement by the Director of Information to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Willie Bassi. Members of the Commission include the SGF as chairman, head of the Civil Service of the Federation, and Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Justice. According to the statement, the Transition Council will be inaugurated by the SGF Tuesday, February 14, 2023 in Abuja. Meanwhile, the military says troops of Operation Hadinkai have killed 34 terrorists in the northeast and northwest zones. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Damadami, equally announced that 340 terrorists have also surrendered to the military and are being profiled. He says this followed a sustained operation in various villages, towns, cities, and communities in the zones, assuring that elections will take place in all parts of the country.
Notably, on 27 January 2023, troops conducted fighting patrol to Boko Haram and Islamic State of West African Province enclave at Uwe village in Kondoga local government area of Borno State and made contact with the terrorists. Following the firefight, troops neutralized 17 terrorists. Equally, on 4th February 2022, troops raided the Boko Haram and Islamic State of West African Province terrorist enclave at Balanga village at the fringes of Sambisa Forest in Goza local government area of Borno State. Following the firefight, troops neutralized 5 terrorists and rescued 55 civilians. Troops equally neutralized 56 terrorists, arrested 17 terrorists, and 9 Boko Haram terrorist logistics suppliers. Troops also rescued 59 civilians, while a total of 340 terrorists and members of their family, comprising of 12 adult male, 133 adult female, and 195 children surrendered to troops at different locations of the Northeast Theater of Operation.
Let's get more stories now from our Abuja studios. Here's Gloria Omezoke. Hi, Gloria.
Thank you, Amarachi. Now to other matters here in Abuja of national security. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is showing support for the creation of state police in Nigeria. While speaking at a book launch in Abuja, Chief Obasanjo faults the argument in some quarters that state police can be abused by state governors. According to him, the country can put safeguards in place to prevent such scenarios. Our correspondent, Linda Akigbe, reports.
Thank you.
Policing the police is a phrase or ideology apt during these times when there exists a great level of mistrust of the Nigerian police by citizens. The fatal shooting of a lawyer in Lagos, Mrs. Bolanle Rahim, on Christmas Day 2022 by a police officer, ASP Drambi Vandi, is just one of the examples of incidents that have deepened the distrust between the police and Nigerians.
We have AIG Usman Magogo.
A former chairman of the Police Service Commission, Chief Simon Okeke, is launching a book titled Policing the Nigerian Police, which examines the oversight role of the Police Service Commission and tries to prefer solutions to the problems plaguing the security organization. The array of guests assembled here at the book launch is a pointer to the seriousness of the subject matter. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo notes some policies to improve policing in the country.
Nigeria, by our structure of federalism, should not have a one and unitary police establishment. People have said that state police will be abused by governors. I won't say yes, I won't say no. But can they not be abused by this federal government? and they are actually being abused by the federal government.
The author delves into the constant friction between the Police Service Commission and the Nigeria Police, calling for an amendment of the 1999 Constitution. But the former Inspector General of Police believes this friction is unnecessary as it distracts from more important issues.
It is the body known as Police Service Commission that took over the function of oversight of the police. That was the function that they defined should be done by the Police Service Commission. Until the military took that section of oversight of the police boss and handed it over to the CNC.
The Police Service Commission can escalate the discussion, the conversation to say, let's not, let's look at the capacity of the men that we are bringing into the system.
Whoever wins the upcoming presidential election has a tough job on their hands, top of which is finding solutions to the multi-headed security problems in the country. And some say a good place to start is embarking on an exhaustive reform of the Nigeria Police. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
And more reactions are still trailing yesterday's order of the Supreme Court restraining the central bank from implementing the February 10 deadline on new Naira swap. Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State said although the policy is good, its implementation is faulty. Governor Ganduje said this during an interactive session with bank officials, traditional leaders and representatives of security agencies in Kano.
The Kano State Governor is meeting with the representatives from Central Bank, commercial banks, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, traditional leaders and security agencies to discuss the cashless policy introduced by the Apex Bank. The governor faults the implementation of the policy.
When you are implementing a policy, you must monitor and find out feedback from what is happening. Is there any feedback from the government, feedback from central bank, and then fine-tune the implementation? Because that is the importance of feedback.
The Apex Bank and commercial banks speak on the situation of the currency swap in the state.
You know, we have a certain percentage of people that are unbanked. We're trying to bring them back into the banking system. This is one of the reasons. The second reason is the cost of printing Naira notes is getting higher and higher.
The new Naira that is not really sufficient as it is, we had to go to central bank to get even the old notes.
The policy also affects the health sector as the Nigerian Medical Association laments the impact.
These policies has bring a very big hardship on the healthcare system. For other people in the public sector, they have to get money to access healthcare facilities.
To provide succor for Kano people, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje plans to provide free transportation and food to the public.
We are now planning to provide palliatives. And also in order to ease transportation system, we'll provide our buses free of charge commuting.
Apex Bank has not officially announced an extension of the deadline. However, the Supreme Court has ordered the Apex Bank to allow the old notes to run concurrently with the new notes as legal tender as beyond the February 10 deadline. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Trade Union Congress has put its members on what it terms red alert should the cash swap crisis persist. Well, President of the Congress, Mr. Festus Osifo, told journalists at a news conference in Abuja that the union will have no choice than to defend the interests of the populace. The union calls on the presidency and the political class to realize that their actions are creating an atmosphere of anarchy, a trend he said must be reversed urgently.
We have never had it so bad. Never have our populace been made to attack banks, strip in banking halls, or threaten to commit suicide inside financial houses because they cannot have access to their hard-earned money. Nigeria as human beings are angry, justifiably so, and have shown their anger in several ways, including through protest. Tragically, rather than address the issues or try to assuage their anger, the security service under the presidency is shooting live bullets at defenseless Nigerians. The minimum irreducible for us is that Nigerians must have access to their money. Petrol must be made available at official prices. Therefore, the TUC, the labor movement, professional associations, market associations, and social movements have no choice but to defend the populace and prevent any tragic situation or scenarios. The leadership of TUC shall be monitoring the situation closely within the time frame of our ultimatum we earlier issued, and we give further directive should the situation not improve. All affiliate unions and state councils, civil societies, traders, students, our allies, market men and women, religious leaders are hereby put on red alert.
And more on the Naira swap. This time, senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, says the CBN is duty-bound to obey the ex parte order of the Apex Court. The rights activist notes that anything to the contrary will amount to what he terms the height of arrogance of power to treat the ex parte of the Supreme Court with provocative contempt. Mr. Falana further explains that although the federal government has filed a preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, the CBN is bound by the valid and subsisting ex parte order of the court until it is set aside by the same court. It says anything other than that will compound the crisis trailing the Naira swap policy in the country. For more on the cash crunch this time, the Office of the National Security Advisor says it is concerned that the policy may negatively affect troops in the field. A representative of the National Security Advisor, Mr. Abubakar Mustafa, stated this prior to a meeting behind closed doors with the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on the CBN Naira swap policy. Mr. Mustafa says most of the troops in remote areas do not have access to banking services or digital means of accessing the money. He further adds that engagements are ongoing to address the matter. But that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Marachi.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. To other stories now, legal matters, that is. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has appealed to the ruling Kogi State High Court that committed the chairman of the commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa, to jail for contempt of court. A statement today, the EFCC said it has filed a stay of execution of the orders. The High Court had on February 6th ordered that Bawa be remanded at Kuje Correctional Center in the FCT for contempt of court. Comital order was issued over the case of alleged fraud involving one Ali Bello, a nephew of the Kogi State governor, who was arrested and detained by the EFCC after the court ruled in his favor. But the anti-graft agency, in its statement today, explained that the Kogi High Court does not have the jurisdiction to entertain the matter heard on February 6, 2023 and on December 12, 2022. Time for business news now. Here's Anne Wawodo.
Thank you, Marachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. Instant electronic payments in the country have hit 38.7 trillion naira in the month of January, and that's amid short supply of naira in the country. According to latest data coming from the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, the figure, the highest recorded for the month of January, represents an increase of over 45% from 26.65 trillion naira seen in January 2022. Just last year, the Central Bank of Nigeria announced the Naira redesign policy with withdrawal limits, encouraging Nigerians to adopt electronic forms of transactions. Meanwhile, the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria says it is working to ease the bottlenecks causing the unavailability of the Naira notes in the country. In a statement signed by the group chairman, Mustafa Chikeobi, BDAN stresses that the association is communicating with banks to speed up the resolution of this crisis. The bank directors note the difficulty associated with the recent currency reform and are making it a priority to ensure the hardship is eliminated. With the recent deployment of 30,000 agents to rural areas to fast-track the swap of old notes for new ones, some agents have identified challenges with this process. One is from Mr. Safaruddin Atonda, the Managing Director, Ecosystem Network. He believes the financial system is not ready for quick switch to a cashless economy. Mr. Atonda was a guest on Business Morning earlier today.
All our village markets are down because there are no other means of payments available to them. The agents that are supposed to be servicing them, prior to this period, the percentage of agents in rural area compared to those in the city are very wide because of profitability, because rural presence are not incentivized. As agent network manager, we have shut down over 90% of our agent location before this time from the rural area due to, one, the challenge of the cost management, the cost to serve. A typical rural environment terrain in Nigeria, for you to get a cash backup from the bank, you have to travel over 200 or 300 kilometers. So you have to spend close to 5,000 naira on transportation. And your man-hour, you're going to spend it because the banks will not say because you are an agent and treat you preferentially. You still have to go and queue on the line. So there are a lot of things that are wrong with our payment system, which we are supposed to put in place before we now say, oh, we are ready for cashless economy. Quite all right, we are not ready for cashless economy, and CBN is also not ready for cashless economy.
In the United Kingdom, the governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, has asked workers and employers to consider the expected sharp fall in inflation this year when negotiating pay settlements. In a meeting today with the Parliamentary Committee, Mr. Bailey says that he expects inflation to soften from the middle of 2023 to below 5%, following record high inflation in 2022. He also adds that the continued tightening reflects the Monetary Policy Committee's concerns about the persistence of inflation and the need to see more evidence of the loosening in the labour market. UK inflation came in at an annual 10.5% in December, making the second consecutive month of decline. Just last week, the bank hiked interest rates by 50 basis points, taking the main interest rate to 4%. We head to the equities market now. We reverse the gains made in yesterday's trading session. Investors are now resuming profit-taking. John Mekwa tells us more.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Profit-taking is the theme of Thursday's trade at the NGX as 36 billion naira shaved off the market value. And it shows right here as we see the all-share index in the red, 0.12% down, still on 54,000 though, and still on the 29 trillion naira, even though that 36 billion naira has been shaved off that. And of course, this means that the bear is back. Well, the best story is told by the sectors, beginning with the oil and gas down 0.61%, much more than 0.5%. It's because Total lost 5 naira 20 kobo to close at 218 naira 80 kobo. Owando also lost 9 kobo to close at 3 naira 83 kobo. We look at the consumer sectors also in the red, 0.30% down. That's because of Nigerian breweries. It lost 1 naira 10 kobo. And then the most liquid counter, my favorite, unfortunately in the red today, 0.38%, GT, Zenith, and Fidelity Bank. I mean, they all shed from their share prices. These activities have boosted general activities in the market, and it led to a very green activity chart there you see from deals to value and volume, all in the green. But it is a negative market today. You know, its profit taking is expected will recover tomorrow, hopefully. That's the stock market report. I'm John Mekwa. Is back to you.
And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Syria has received its first batch of international aid as 6 UN lorries crossed the border into the country today. It comes as death toll from Monday's earthquake reaches nearly 20,000. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has warned of a secondary disaster looming if survivors do not get water, shelter, fuel or electricity fast enough. Teniola Oyetayo has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel studio in London for your international news around the world in 5. As search and rescue efforts continue for a 4th day after Monday's earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, hopes of finding survivors are fading. Over 19,000 people are now known to have died, and residents in both countries are criticizing what they call a slow response by officials and lack of support. More than 16,000 people have died in southeastern Turkey, while over 3,000 deaths have been confirmed in northwestern Syria. Tens of thousands more have also been injured and left homeless. Without shelter, water, fuel or electricity, the World Health Organization fears many survivors could yet lose their lives. The WHO says there's a danger there will be a secondary disaster which may cause harm to more people than the initial quake.
With the weather conditions and ongoing aftershocks, we're in a race against time to save lives. People need shelter, food, clean water and medical care for injuries resulting from the earthquake, but also for other health needs.
Meanwhile, the first United Nations aid convoy since the magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck on Monday has crossed into northwest Syria from Turkey. The flow of humanitarian aid had been temporarily disrupted since the first pre-dawn quake hit due to logistical issues and damage to the road connecting the UN transshipment hub in Hatay. Relief efforts in Syria have been complicated by 12 years of civil war that has destroyed the nation's infrastructure. According to the UN, about 4.1 million people in the region were in need of assistance before the quake. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made an emotional plea for his country to become a member of the European Union during an address to the EU Parliament in Brussels. President Zelensky, who was given a standing ovation, emphasized the shared values between Kyiv and the EU and thanked the bloc for its unwavering support. The EU Parliament President, while restating support for Ukraine, urged nations to provide the country with warplanes and long-range weapons.
We have your back. We were with you then. We are with you now. We will be with you for as long as it takes.
The Ukrainian president, on his second trip abroad since the war began, also attended a summit of EU leaders where he said Europe's freedom depends on Ukraine's and lobbied for more weapons. The Ukrainian leader had earlier traveled from Paris with France's Emmanuel Macron, where he had also held talks with Germany's Olaf Scholz. Before visiting Paris, he had been assured by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak that nothing was off the table. North Korea has showcased its largest ever display of intercontinental ballistic missiles. About a dozen long-range ICBMs were shown during a nighttime military parade attended by leader Kim Jong-un and his young daughter. Kim Ju-ae's appearance has fueled speculation she's being primed as successor to her father. The parade took place in central Pyongyang with over 30,000 soldiers participating and more watching. The number of long-range missiles displayed has prompted concern, with some analysts saying it could potentially challenge the U.S. defense system. And finally, North Korea's army has released a dramatic promotional video showing troops training in ice and fire. The nearly 2-minute-long video features shirtless soldiers in freezing temperatures, breaking chains and ice blocks with their bare fists in slow motion. Soldiers were also shown standing on top of a train and doing hand-to-hand combat training. The footage was aired by North Korea's state television to mark the 75th anniversary of the country's army.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Teniola. Let's head on to Ayotunde Balogun now for sports news.
Many thanks, Marachi. Welcome to Sports News. Nigerian sprinter Divine Ududuru has been provisionally suspended and notified of 2 potential anti-doping rule violations by the Athletics Integrity Unit. Now, the AIU, or the Athletics Integrity Unit, is also seeking a 6-year ban for the 3-time African Games and 3-time African Championships medalist. All the alleged violations relate to the possession and attempted use of a prohibited substance. This comes after U.S. prosecutors charged therapist Eric Lira with supplying performance-enhancing drugs to athletes at the Tokyo Olympics. Clubs from Togo and Benin Republic have been confirmed for the maiden edition of the Lagos Athletics Club Series starting on February the 19th at the Yaba College of Technology. The Lagos State Athletics Association said the competition is a 4-leg event that would climax in June and have secured the approval rather, of World Athletics to recognize the records set by the athletes. The association also announced that the total prize money for the series is 10 million naira.
Some of the athletes you see here are members, like I can see, they are members of different clubs. Just to know that Team Lagos is not a club. Team Lagos is the Lagos State team. So within Team Lagos, we had about 7 clubs, athletes from our 7 clubs that represented Team Lagos. More than 7 clubs, exactly. So we have clubs. There are clubs around, and I can tell you for sure that there will be more than 25 clubs that will compete.
In club football, Real Madrid boss Carlo Ancelotti, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola, and Argentina coach Lionel Scaloni, a national team manager, of course, have been named the 3 finalists for the Best FIFA Men's Coach Award. And none of Ancelotti, Guardiola, or Scaloni have ever won the award before. Ancelotti led Real Madrid to winning the Spanish La Liga and the UEFA Champions League. Guardiola guided Man City to English Premier League title, while Scaloni's success came in the international game as he led the Albiceleste of Argentina to a FIFA World Cup victory in Qatar. The award, which rewards a coach's performances between August the 8th, 2021 and December the 18th, 2022, will be decided in a ceremony in Paris, France on February the 27th. FIFA has confirmed that football clubs worldwide have spent a January transfer record $1.57 billion last month, as the number of international transfers for the winter window reached an all-time high. Fueled by heavy spending from English Premier League clubs, the total outlay represented a near 50% increase from the same period last year and eclipsed the January 2018 record by $230 million. English clubs accounted for 57.3% of the overall spend, after splashing out a combined $898.6 million, with Chelsea alone doling out $390 million on 8 new players. And the number of international transfers for the January window also reached new highs. There were 4,387 in men's football and 341 in the women's game. Domenico Tedesco has admitted that he wants to make Belgium's players happy and motivated after taking over as head coach. Now, the Belgian Football Federation confirmed that the 37-year-old signed a contract until after Euro 2024 and that his first game in charge will be their opening qualifier against Sweden in Stockholm on March the 24th. Tedesco, who was born in Italy but grew up in Germany, said his first priority will be to meet the players. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Back to you, Marachi.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again, as the clock ticks towards the commencement of the 2023 general elections, political parties nationwide today continue the final push for more votes as the candidates of the Labour Party, the People's Democratic Party, and the All Progressives Congress expressed readiness to take the nation to greater heights during their campaigns in Abuja, Kano, and Sokoto states. Also today, the Independent National Electoral Commission revealed there are over 1,200 pre-election cases at various levels of courts, just as it pledged adequate security for all ad hoc staff during the polls. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night and stay safe.